All right, so for this week's Challenge Wednesday, we have Sara, and Sara is examining a patient with 5 degrees of bilateral femoral torsion who presents with complaints of medial knee pain. Which of the following muscles is the most likely to be weak and lengthened? All right, so we have our answer choices. A, Gluteus maximus. B, Pectineus. C, Obturator internus. And D is Obturator externus. All right. So let's go up to the top. We got Sara is examining a patient with 5 degrees of bilateral femoral torsion. This is where we need to slow up, y'all. This is important. All right. We need to slow up because you need to understand, well, what is femoral torsion anyway? I mean, this is an area I used to get stuck all the time and didn't really understand it in PT school. Didn't understand if a patient has anteversion, like what happens with the biomechanics and all that good stuff. I just didn't understand it very well. And so when I went back and I looked at femoral torsion, I found that it was a twisting of the femoral neck and shaft. All right, twisting of the femoral neck and shaft. And it's typically supposed to be between 8 and 15 degrees of anteversion. All right, so it's direct. The femoral shaft and neck is twisted inward. All right, and it's supposed to be anteriorly directed by 8 to 15 degrees. Okay, so what does that mean to you? That means that a patient coming into you who doesn't have any specific pathology related to their bony structure or anything related to the twisting of the bones, if they're typically formed, they should be between 8 and 15 degrees of anteversion. That's right. We are all in 8 to 15 degrees of femoral anteversion. All right, that's normal. Now, if it goes above that, if it goes above 15, we call that excessive femoral anteversion. But guess what happens if we go below that, y'all? If we go below 8, it is called retroversion. All right, and you have to know that for this question because it says Sara is examining a patient with 5 degrees of bilateral femoral torsion. That just gave you gold because now you know that this patient is retroverted. Their hips are retroverted. But now what does that mean to you from a clinical presentation? Well, we need to know that that means that the hips are going to be more externally rotated. This patient's going to present to you with excessive external rotation and limited internal rotation. All right. They're also going to present to you walking with an out-toeing posturing. All right. That's those children or those young adults that can present to you like that. And so it says here, the patient presents with medial knee pain as well. Okay, so medial knee pain makes sense, especially if they're in a varus deformity. If they have like a varus deformity going on, they may have a lot of medial compression, all right, at the knees. So the medial knee pain, that makes sense. Let's continue down the line. The question stem here says, which of the following muscles is the most likely to be weak and lengthened? This is important. But we have the keys to the city right now. We actually know quite a bit because we know that our patient is retroverted. We know the patient has excessive external rotation and limited internal rotation. So to me, that means that all my external rotators must be what? All right, slow up for a minute. All my external rotators must be tight, right? And all my internal rotators of the hip must be lengthened. That's what that means to me because this person's in retroversion. Cool. So now we can start looking at our answer choices. Again, we have A, Gluteus maximus, B, Pectineus, C, Obturator internus, and D is Obturator externus. So let's look at each. Gluteus maximus. Well, first things first. Don't get caught up in the question. Just tell me what is the action or actions of the gluteus maximus. What does it do? You should be telling me, well, it lives on the back side of the body, right? It lives on the posterior side, and it participates in hip extension and also participates in external rotation of the hip. Well, what did we establish before this? What was that statement that we established? That with a person who has external rotation, who's retroverted, they're going to have a lot of external rotation and limited internal rotation. We also said that this patient is going to have tight external rotators and lengthened internal rotators. Well, if glute max is an external rotator, this cannot be the right answer, y'all. It can't be, because if anything, this would be a shortened muscle, not a lengthened one. All right? Let's look at Pectineus. All right, Pectineus is another muscle that is in that hip region, assists with hip function, so we need to know what is its primary role. Does it participate in flexion or extension or internal and external rotation? That's really important. So if you know a bit about Pectineus, you should know that the Pectineus is an internal rotator. All right? And so if our patient has retroversion, do we expect them to have shortened internal rotators or lengthened internal rotators? Lengthened, right? Exactly. And so the Pectineus is the right answer here. It seems like it's the right answer because it is going to be a lengthened muscle. It's an internal rotator. It's going to be lengthened. Therefore, I like B. Doesn't mean it's the right answer right now, but potentially it could be our final answer. Let's look at C. C says Obturator internus. Again, we have to think about, well, what does this muscle do? This muscle is also on the backside. It's a hip stabilizer. It participates in external rotation of the hip. Do we expect our external rotators to be lengthened, or do we expect our external rotators to be shortened? You should be telling me we expect them to be shortened, Kyle, right? So this cannot be the answer, because we would expect obturator internus to be a shortened muscle. Now let's go down to D. D says obturator externus. Now this is important. Now they gave us the opposites here, so it's kind of like, ooh, is it one of... All right, what does this do? Does obturator externus do external rotation? Does it do internal rotation? I don't know, right? So it's really important for you to know these muscles as well, the obturator internal and internus and externus. I will tell you, the obturator externus also participates in external rotation of the hip. And we said external rotators are going to be shortened, and therefore they cannot be the right answer. We're looking for a muscle that is going to be weak and lengthened, and our external rotators are not that. All right? So in all, really what this question is asking you is, which one of the following answer choices is an internal rotator? All right, or which one of the following answer choices is going to be the one that would be considered lengthened and weak? The only one is B, Pectineus. So if you selected that, congratulations. For those of you who didn't, that's okay. You know, we have to really look at this question and see, okay, is it the fact that we didn't understand what retroversion was or anteversion? Is it the fact that we didn't know what these muscle functions were? We didn't know what gluteus maximus did. We didn't know if it did internal or external rotation. We didn't know if Pectineus did internal or external. All right? Or C or D, same exact thing. We didn't know if those did external or internal rotation. If you didn't have that information, that is definitely going to slow you up and cause you to get this question wrong. But can I give you one of my secret strategies right now? For those of you on the podcast, for those of you who are listening to me on YouTube right now, you know, let me give you a secret strategy of mine. It's called clickbait. Let me explain it to you. Have you ever heard that word clickbait before? You know, it's like you go online, maybe you're on YouTube, maybe you're scrolling through Facebook or whatnot, and there's a headline above a video, and it's saying something like, oh my gosh, the most amazing thing ever, right? And it's all in caps with an exclamation point, and you go to click on it, and next thing you know, it's like a frog like laying on a lily pad, just laying there, not doing nothing. Right? And so you get upset because you're like, what the heck? You just wanted me to click on this so you can get some more views. That's called clickbait. Now, what if I told you that on your exam, your practice exam, your NPTE, you're potentially having clickbait, which is costing you tons of points. All right? And clickbait is when there is some type of answer choice below that looks pretty. It's enticing. It's not the right answer, but it's enticing to you. All right, so think about it this way. When we went through this question, we were talking about retroversion, right? And we were talking about how the patient is going to have excessive external rotation, and that their external rotators are going to be tight and their internal rotators are going to be lengthened. And we knew that we wanted to find an answer that was an internal rotator. That was our mindset, right? And so we looked down at the answer choice and we saw a glute max, and maybe we eliminated that one. You were like, no, it can't be that. That's an external rotator. And you looked at Pectineus and you're like, ooh, I don't know if that's an internal or external rotator. I have no idea. Then you looked at C, and C was Obturator internus, and you're like, ooh, I like C. I don't know why I like C, but I like it. That is where the clickbait is. The clickbait is there because you see this final word internus there. And internus makes you think of what? Come on, I don't have to tell you. You know, internus makes you think of internal rotation. And so automatically you get drawn into that answer like, oh, something about C. I think it's C. I like it. Clickbait. All right. That is the idea of clickbait on your practice exams that will cause you to get the question incorrect.